It was a rainy late afternoon in Paris. Water streamed down the sidewalks of the city, umbrellas passed each other like the wings of anxious birds, and the sound of tires slicing through puddles blended with the murmur of people in a hurry. In one of the most upscale neighborhoods of the capital, known for its boutiques and fine markets, a man of short stature, simple clothing, and discreet posture pushed a shopping cart through a luxury supermarket. He wore dark sweatpants, a worn sports jacket, and a plain black cap with no logo. He was someone who would go unnoticed in any crowd, and that was exactly how he liked it. N'Golo Kanté, World Cup champion with France and idol to millions, was there just to shop for his family. He enjoyed cooking when he had the time and took advantage of rare breaks to live a normal life, far from cameras and adoration. That afternoon, he had decided to personally go to Marché d'Étoile, one of the most luxurious supermarkets in the area. He needed fresh ingredients, special oils, and some expensive items to prepare a special dinner for his mother, who would be visiting for the weekend. Despite the fortune he had accumulated in his career, Kanté had never abandoned his humble habits. He never cared about looking rich. To him, that said nothing about a person's true worth. As he walked through the well-lit aisles of the store, his attentive eyes examined labels and expiration dates. He placed imported cheeses, premium cuts of meat, select wines, and fine spices into his cart, all with discretion, without showiness. But slowly, his behavior, or rather his appearance, began to attract attention. An elegant woman frowned upon seeing him examine a €300 bottle of wine. A staff member stocking products in an aisle whispered something into the radio on his belt. And from the administrative office on the second floor, 2 security guards watched him through the surveillance cameras. "Who's that guy in aisle 7?" one of them asked, sounding suspicious. "He's only picking out luxury products. And look at his clothes. Something's off. He's probably going to run off with something," the other replied, not recognizing the footballer. Even without any sign of suspicious behavior, the security guards decided to act. They came down the stairs with firm steps and approached the aisle where Kanté was examining a truffle oil bottle. "Good afternoon, sir," said one of them, breaking the silence. "May I see your ID?" Kanté, always polite, responded calmly, "Good afternoon. Why?" "We have a security policy here. We need to ensure that customers have the means to pay for the items they're carrying. You're shopping with many high-value products." For a second, Kanté remained silent. His eyes showed more surprise than indignation. It was the kind of approach he had experienced before. Even with all his fame, not everyone recognized him. And to many, a black man in simple clothes pushing a cart full of expensive items was still seen with suspicion. "Don't worry," he answered calmly. "I can pay for everything." "Even so, we need you to accompany us to the exit," the other security guard insisted. "This store reserves the right of admission." Kanté looked around. Some people were already observing the scene, whispering. Most didn't recognize him immediately. The discomfort grew. He left the cart standing between the imported pasta shelf and the cheese section. Kanté, maintaining his dignity, didn't argue. He simply let go of the cart, discreetly took his phone from his pocket and said, "All right, I'll just make a call first." Without raising his voice or making a scene, he dialed someone and calmly walked away, the guards following him closely, as if they were dealing with a criminal. What they didn't know was that the call would completely change the course of that evening. On the other end of the line, the one who picked up was Ahmed, his trusted advisor, one of the few people Kanté kept in constant contact with outside the football world. "Ahmed, good afternoon. I'm at Marché d'Étoile. Something a bit embarrassing just happened," he said in a neutral tone. "What happened? Are you okay?" Ahmed replied, already alert. "Yes, I'm fine. They just asked me to leave." "Said that, based on how I look, I don't seem to have the means to pay for what I'm buying." There was a brief silence. Ahmed sighed. "Want me to come there now?" "No, no need. Just let the foundation staff know the dinner with my mother might have to happen somewhere else. I think I lost my appetite for this place." As he ended the call, the security guards waited with arms crossed, impatient. The shopping cart, still filled with the items KANTÉ had chosen, was pushed aside by a young employee who made no effort to hide his sense of superiority. "Let's go, sir. This way." KANTÉ walked without saying a word. The stares from customers intensified as he was escorted toward the entrance. One of the guards, the taller one, made space in the aisles as if escorting a thief. The other kept his hand near the radio, in a posture that only added to the growing discomfort. As they passed by the flower section, an elderly lady with white hair and sharp eyes widened them in recognition and quietly called the store manager. "That man, I'm almost certain it's N'Golo Kanté, the footballer." The manager, who had been distracted arranging a display, turned quickly. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. I saw him once outside the stadium. He's an angel in human form." "What are they doing to him?" The manager rushed toward the entrance, where the guards were just about to escort KANTÉ out. "Wait! Wait a minute!" he shouted, his voice trembling with urgency. The security guards turned, confused. The taller one responded, "Everything's under control, sir. Just following protocol." "Do you know who this man is?" the manager asked, trying to keep his composure as he approached KANTÉ. The guards exchanged glances. "A suspicious customer. He's taking high-value items that don't match his appearance and—" "Don't match?" the manager interrupted, now visibly shocked. "That's N'Golo Kanté, World Cup champion, national icon, one of the most respected players in Europe." For a moment, silence fell like a curtain. The revelation hit hard. A couple nearby stopped in their tracks, turning in disbelief. A young man in a cap pulled out his phone and started recording discreetly. Eyes turned to the man in the simple hoodie and calm posture. A murmur swept through the store, a mix of shame and curiosity. "Mr. Kanté, I'm so sorry," said the manager, clearly flustered. "There's been a terrible mistake. Please, let us make it right." Kanté shook his head slightly without showing anger. "There's nothing to fix. I did nothing wrong. I just came to buy food." The manager gestured for the guards to step back, which they did, hesitantly and ashamed. The employee who had moved the cart now brought it back, his head down. One of the guards tried to explain, "Sir, it was just a routine check. Nothing personal." "Every time it's me, they say that," Kanté replied, without raising his voice. "But it happens too often to be just coincidence." The words weren't accusatory. They came out raw, without rage or drama, and that perhaps made them even more painful. A young staff member who had been collecting baskets near the entrance walked over timidly. "Sorry to bother you. Are you really Kanté?" He nodded with a brief smile. "Can I take a picture with you?" Kanté hesitated for a moment. The situation was still uncomfortable, but the boy seemed sincere. He crouched slightly to match the kid's height and smiled for the camera. In the background of the photo, ironically, the two security guards stood awkwardly, unsure if they should move or stay out of the frame. Gradually, the news spread through the store. Some people approached with more respect. A cashier ran up with a bouquet of flowers she had taken from the floral section. "This is on the house, please accept it." Kanté thanked her but didn't take the flowers. "Thank you, but I didn't come here to receive gifts. I just wanted to buy my dinner." The manager, still nervous, insisted that he continue shopping and promised VIP treatment, the best experience possible to make up for the mistake. But Kanté simply looked toward the aisle where his items had been left behind and said, "I just wanted to be treated like any other customer." He took a deep breath, glanced discreetly at his watch, and began heading for the exit, where a few phone flashes had already started going off. The customers, split between remorse and awe, watched in silence as the man mistaken for a thief walked out with the same humility with which he had entered. Outside the market, the gray sky continued to pour its steady drizzle. N'Golo Kanté stood beneath the awning, zipping up his jacket and adjusting his cap. The wet sidewalk reflected the city lights like a trembling mirror. He didn't seem angry or defeated. There was a subtle sadness in his expression, not because of the humiliation itself, but because he knew that no matter what he had achieved, he would still be judged by what he wore, by the color of his skin, by his simplicity. While he waited for the car Ahmed had sent, a small group gathered at a distance trying to confirm if it was really him. Some hesitated to approach. Others, embarrassed by what they had witnessed, simply looked away. A middle-aged man in a suit and tie finally approached with quick steps. He held a bag from the same market in his hands. "Mr. KANTÉ, I'm sorry to intrude. I was inside and I just wanted to apologize on everyone's behalf. That was absurd. Unacceptable." KANTÉ looked at him calmly without replying immediately. The man continued, "I work in recruitment at a multinational company. I've seen this kind of judgment happen to brilliant candidates just because they didn't dress the way people expected. It's a structural issue. But seeing it happen to someone like you, it's shameful." KANTÉ nodded slightly, without arrogance. "The problem isn't with me. I'll move on with my life. The problem is with those who go through this every day and don't have what I have." The man swallowed hard, unsure of what to say. He simply held out the bag. "I bought some of the items that were in your cart. Not everything, but I wanted you to have them." KANTÉ gave a gentle smile. "I appreciate the gesture, but don't worry. What I lost today isn't in that bag." At that moment, the car pulled up. A black SUV, discreet. Ahmed got out and approached with a large umbrella, shielding KANTÉ from the rain. He immediately sensed that something inside him had shifted. There was a firmness in his gaze, as if his quiet indignation was being channeled. "Want to head home?" Ahmed asked. "No, I want to stop by the foundation." Ahmed simply nodded. It wasn't the first time KANTÉ had responded to a blow with an act of kindness. He knew something would come from this. Soon after, at the headquarters of the N'Golo Kanté Foundation, a modest building in a humble neighborhood of Paris, he walked in calmly and went straight to the meeting room. Inside were 2 program coordinators and a young volunteer who helped with fundraising campaigns. "I need to launch a new initiative," said KANTÉ, sitting at the table with his cap still on. "I want to create a training and inclusion program for young Black people and immigrants who are excluded from opportunities because of prejudice. Let's start with workshops, professional guidance, and maybe a partnership with retail chains. If we can't change everyone's mindset, let's at least change some people's reality." The coordinators nodded, moved. They had heard many good ideas before, but few born from a pain so real, so recent. "And let's call it by its real name," he added. "Let's call the project Suspicious Customer." There was a brief silence. Then a smile of admiration spread across the team's faces. The irony of the name was powerful. It exposed, provoked, and educated, all at once. In the following days, the story leaked. A video recorded by a customer at the market made its way to Twitter. It was short but clear. KANTÉ being escorted by the guards, the manager's interruption, the player's identification, and the looks of discomfort spreading around. Within hours, the story went viral. Headlines in newspapers, YouTube videos, opinion columns. Some condemned the structural racism in luxury retail. Others praised KANTÉ's calm demeanor in the face of injustice. The supermarket chain issued a public apology and announced internal actions to review its approach protocols, but many saw it as a generic response, lacking real commitment. Meanwhile, the N'Golo Kanté Foundation received hundreds of donations in just a few days. Entrepreneurs, celebrities, and even everyday people who identified with the cause joined the movement. The Suspicious Customer project gained momentum before it even launched. KANTÉ, however, remained silent. He refused interviews. He didn't want to exploit the attention. He simply kept working behind the scenes, building partnerships, gathering youth, and shaping the initiative. The following week, he returned to Marché d'Étoile. He wore the same sweatpants, the same cap, the same jacket. There were no cameras. No security guards came to confront him this time. No employee even dared look at him sideways. He walked through the aisles silently, picked up the same wine, the same cheeses, the same truffle oil. At the register, the cashier recognized him. Her eyes were full of guilt, but she said nothing. He paid with a card, thanked her with a smile, and walked out carrying the bags himself without assistance. Outside, the sky was clear, and the world felt, even if just for a moment, a little fairer.